Thank you again so much for joining me this morning. To everyone watching this from home, this is my friend Yachan Bey. We met, several years ago now, just after the movie 2000 Mules was released, when Yachan reached out from South Korea. And what we learned over the time talking back and forth together over these now years is how similar what has happened in South Korea is to what has happened in the United States of America. But in these last few days, there's been a lot of breaking news coming out of South Korea that here in America is very hard to understand, because President Yoon had initiated martial law, which is something that strikes a certain note with Americans in concern. But in fact, it's not as you might have thought, because of all of the other mitigating factors there in the country of South Korea. And so I invited Yachan to join us this morning to give us the firsthand accounts of what is happening in the country and how we can be better informed and how we can pray specifically for Yachan and his countrymen. So again, Yachan, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and would just love to have you give us a bit of an update.
Hi, I'm Yechonbe from South Korea, and I'm just student in graduate school, but I have been working as civil activist to protect our freedoms given by God and to protect our democracy in South Korea. I've known True the Vote for many years. I would say that True the Vote is quite popular and well known in South Korea as the protector of voting right in the United States. That is because many people in South Korea knows about 2000 Mules documentary. Again, it is my honor to be here today and speak in front of America and American brothers and sisters.
John, when we first met, we talked a lot about how similar the problems that we were facing here in our country were to what you were facing in yours. And over time, through you, have been introduced to congressmen and documentarians and others trying to chronicle the breakdown of election integrity in your country. Can you describe maybe the similarities that you saw in South Korea and things that gave you concern about the election in 2020?
I think there are many similarities between South Korea and the United States. I believe that the same people and same enemy stole our elections in South Korea and the United States too. They stole the election in 2020 in South Korea first. They rigged the election result, so many politicians were elected due to the election fraud. But after the several months in 2020, the election fraud happened in presidential election in the United States.
Well, that's exactly what we found, and learned that, in fact, leaders from your country came over to America in the lead up to the 2020 election and tried to warn Americans that what had happened to them was, by all appearances, headed to the United States, and the message just didn't connect in time. But then both of us, lessons learned after that 2020 election, took things in a different in a different direction, and one that involved more specifically getting the people engaged and informed and speaking out about the vulnerabilities of the process. And the result of that then was an election that brought in President Yoon, who in many respects might be what you would call a MAGA candidate, in that he was greatly in favor of improving election integrity and strengthening the voice of the people, which then brings us to the recent occurrences in his efforts to establish the election integrity necessary, which he chose to do first by setting in place martial law, which is, I think, where the confusion began on our side. Can you explain, Yachan, the occurrences of the last several days and what it really means through your eyes?
As you know, a lot of things happened during the last week. So I think many people were surprised surprised after they heard that the martial law was declared in South Korea last Tuesday night. I understand because I was one of them, and almost people in media are describing President Yoon as the destroyer of democracy and kind of dictator in 1970. However, the thing that I want to emphasize is that you should recognize that South Korea is still in war with North Korea and China. So I would say that the South Korea is at the front line with war China and communism. That is why South Korea has been fighting against the communism over 70 years since the foundation of our democratic country. Surprisingly, there are so many enemies inside of my country and so many politicians and so many political parties and national institutions such as Supreme Court and National Election Commission have been dominated and fully controlled by China and North Korea. And so as a result, elections in 2020 and 2022 and 2024 were manipulated and totally rigged by China. So many politicians who following China and North Korea were elected due to the election fraud, and they who were elected due to the election fraud, they are making ridiculously illegal laws, and they have been trying to make this country into country like North Korea or China. So I want to say that the President Yoon is not a communist, and he is trying to block their tryings to convert this country into country like China. But since the judges in this country are totally corrupted, so they denied it that the election fraud was. So they denied it that the election was fraud 2 years ago. The whole legal system in this country is totally corrupted and are controlled by China, sadly. I think that is why the President Yoon declared martial law. He didn't try to get rid of democracy in this country. Important thing is that he sent only 100 special soldiers to Congress building, but he sent 300 special soldiers to National Election Commission building. I'm sure you must be curious about why he didn't send enough soldiers to Congress building to block their trials to stop the martial law of the president. However, recently, the Minister of Defense of South Korea, who advised President Yoon to declare martial law, officially said that declaring the martial law was to investigate the possible election fraud in last elections in South Korea.
So what you're saying is that martial law was instituted, and the actions that President Yoon took were to put soldiers around the congressional buildings, or the offices of the Congress, so that they could not impede in his efforts to establish what was going on at your election commission. And so sending official representatives or soldiers to secure the Congress and then secure the election commission, the goal was to try and see for themselves what had really transpired in previous elections. Is that a fair way to explain it?
According to my source, but the Minister of Defense said that it was to investigate the possible election fraud. So according to the clear sources, I'm pretty sure that you are understanding in right way.
And so then we heard that martial law, almost as soon as it had been established, was rescinded, and there was an effort to impeach the president, which he seems to have survived through, and now there might be another call for martial law. Or what is the current state of affairs there in South Korea?
The democratic parties, which are controlled by China and North Korea, they are trying to impeach the president and his all cabinet members. Like you said, last Saturday, the Democratic parties united and they proposed the impeachment bill to impeach the president. but thankfully the bill failed because the party of President Yoon refused to participate in voting about the bill. However, the Democratic parties are warning about they will propose impeachment bill every week until the president resign or he get impeached through the parliament. And on last Saturday and Sunday, the people from the Democratic Party and people who supporting the Republican Party, they started protesting in the streets. So on Saturday and Sunday, the streets of the city was crowded by the so many people who wants the president to be impeached and who wants president to keep his position. So that is,
Both sides were protesting.
yeah, they are protesting very wild, and they are getting very wild. Some people are getting like unreasonable. They lost their mind. And also the police and prosecution started special investigation of President Yoon and his cabinet. And yesterday, sadly, they arrested the Minister of Defense. And today, they banned the president to travel abroad. This is the first record of to ban the president to travel abroad, which is very wild trial to stop the president. And also almost members of President Yoon's cabinet resigned yesterday, and they are getting investigated.
Oh gosh, Ichan, I'm so sorry. It's brings back memories. We didn't go through those exact circumstances here in this country, but certainly we saw things that we could have never imagined in the last few years done to our incoming president, Donald Trump. And it just, my heart breaks for you and your people and all that you're going through and the uncertainty that such actions bring with it. But good for you for standing your ground. We've also heard, well, I should let the audience know that the group that you're affiliated with has brought many documentaries forward, some of which are on our website, and we're going to be republishing them just to make people more aware of the work that's already gone into this from your team, and tells a very similar story to what happened here in this country. But we are now hearing that YouTubers and documentarians are beginning to fear for their ability to continue in speaking out. Can you give us any information about that?
But thankfully, there I feel no threat of free speech. Thanks to God.
That's
And all
wonderful.
the disadvantage of this phenomena is that there are so many false information and misinformation are around everywhere in South Korea. It is good that the free speech is guaranteed in this country at this situation, but the bad thing is that there are so many full of the misinformation and false news around here.
Well, we certainly understand that here as well. And that's why it's just so important to keep communication lines open and to be able to share and describe what's really happening. So that people can not only better understand the facts, but not be fooled by misinformation that takes an already bad situation and turns it into something that really doesn't mirror reality, and that makes it impossible to solve because it's not based in fact. So, Jeff, thank you for that information.
I want to share the interesting fact about which happened in last 2016. In last 2016, the president Park Geun-hye was impeached by the same Democratic parties which they were following China and North Korea at the time. She was the president who didn't want this country to become like China and North Korea, so she opposed with the Democratic parties. So the Democratic parties who were ordered by the North Korea impeached the President Park Geun-hye unfairly in 2016. So the Republican government of South Korea was totally destroyed by the enemies inside this country, right before the President Trump first administration. But exactly just as like 2016, the Republican government of President Yoon is about to collapse by the enemies who is following China and North Korea in this country. I think it is very spiritual thing, and the same thing which happened in 2016 is happening right now before the president's second administration. It is very interesting, phenomenal. But I say that we cannot lose freedom this time, and we cannot lose our free government just like 2016. So the thing I want to ask you and for American people is that I saw so many media and people in the United States were misinformed by the left democratic media, which are describing the President Yoon as the dictator. They are calling the evil people as the protector of democracy and righteous people as the destroyer of freedom. When I see the society and when I see what's happening in this society, the verse from the Bible comes up to my mind, which is Isaiah chapter 5 and 6:20, that warn to them that call evil good and good evil, that
Mm.
darkness for light and light for darkness. They are calling evil good and they are calling good evil. I believe this word from Isaiah chapter 5 is happening right now. And I believe and I pray that their attempt to convert this country as communist country will be dissolved soon. So the one thing that I ask you is that pray for the South Korea and pray for the President Yoon. And many Korean people are fighting and protesting in the streets to protect the President Yoon and the democracy of this country. But if he got impeached this time, the democracy of this country will collapse very swiftly and very rapidly, and this country will convert into country like North Korea and China very quickly. That is that is what I'm afraid of, and we should pray for protection of this country, and we should pray for the justice on this country. That's what I want to ask you to pray about.
Well, we absolutely will do that, Dichan, and we will continue to stay in contact and continue to read everything we can about the situation there in South Korea. Know that we are on standby if you need help. We will do everything we can, and we will most especially keep you and your countrymen in our prayers. So thank you so much for your time this morning here in America, in there in the evening over in South Korea. We appreciate you and look forward to hearing more about the current state of affairs in your country.
Okay, thank you so much. And this
Thank you.
means really a lot, and this really helpful for South Korea people. And we are it is beyond our words to express our gratitude to Mrs. Engelbrecht and to the vote and every single persons who are praying for the South Korea in the United States.
Thank you so much, Ichan. We are more alike than we are different, and these are the times that we must stand together. So thank you again. Godspeed, God bless, and we will be in touch again very soon.